Kevin Elson. Here's a look at what's going on this week in the news. We begin with news from around the country. In a recent statement released by the Knights of Columbus, Supreme Knight Carl Anderson urged prayers for those who are being persecuted and killed for their faith. He also announced the Knights will be giving nearly $2 million in new assistance to aid Syrian and Iraqi Christian refugees. In the statement, Mr. Anderson said that those targeted for genocide continue to need our assistance, especially since many have received no funding from the U.S. government or from the United Nations. On March 17, 2016, then U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry said that atrocities carried out by the Islamic State group against Yazidis, Christians, Shiite Muslims, and other minorities were genocide. It was the first U.S. declaration of genocide since Sudanese actions in Darfur in 2004. The Knights have raised more than $12 million for Christian refugee relief since 2014. Members were also praying a novena of grace and solidarity for persecuted Christians from March 12th to March 20th. In news now from the Vatican, when going to the Vatican, one of the important stops for visitors and pilgrims alike are the Vatican Museums, which welcome 6 million people a year. Recently, cameras were allowed to enter the laboratories of the museum to get a glimpse of the work being done continuously throughout the year.
For the first time, television cameras have had access to the laboratories of the Vatican Museums. The experts of these laboratories are in charge of restoring artwork from all cultures and parts of the world. It is a job that cannot be taken lightly, as it requires a lot of dedication and many hours of study.
Above all, it's necessary to know the substances that are on the surface, and the expert knows this from his experience, either acquired through observation or through the attentive scientific analysis that we carry out in laboratories.
Many people do not fully know the cultural wealth that is hidden in the different rooms of the Vatican Museums. It is one of the most important museums in the world, because in its facilities there are more than 80,000 works of art from different historical periods. Some of them would not be able to be admired by the public if it were not for the hard work of the restorers. Among the museum's restoration experts, there are biologists, chemists, researchers, and curators, all of whom are responsible for resurrecting pieces, which in some cases were made thousands of years ago.
We work in the lesser-known collection of this museum, which holds great universally known masterpieces. But inside this extraordinary museum, there's also the ethnological collection, with objects collected by several popes who have preceded us and who have preserved the memory of all peoples without exception.
Approximately 6 million people visit the Vatican Museums each year. They're able to see work ranging from Greco-Roman statues to exclusive relics of the Etruscans and Egyptians. Artists who greatly impacted history such as Giotto, Caravaggio, Leonardo, Michelangelo, and Raphael continue to astonish visitors with their unique details and realism that have endured through time. It is not only the big names that have space, but also craftsmanship from different ethnic groups in China, Tibet, Papua New Guinea, Indonesia, and Thailand. These are the living testimonies of creativity, beauty, and different cultures. Though some of them are missing, they still serve as a way to educate the public in diversity and the importance of building bridges.
More news now from around the country. The Apostleship of the Sea has announced Bishop Brendan Cahill of Victoria, Texas, as its new bishop promoter in the United States. Bishop Cahill succeeds now retired Bishop Kevin Boland of Savannah, Georgia, who has served as bishop promoter since February of 2008. The Apostleship of the Sea reaches out to seafarers, fishers, their families, port personnel, and all who work or travel on the high seas. The Apostleship uses a network of port chaplains, lay volunteers, as well as facilities at ports to provide spiritual and other assistance. Back to the Vatican we go. The Vatican confirmed this past week that one of Pope Francis's trips in 2017 will be to Egypt. Rome Reports has more information on the trip.
Although there are still no dates or trip itinerary, the Vatican has confirmed that the Pope is considering going to Egypt. It would not be a surprising announcement, as in recent months, the Vatican and Cairo University Al-Azhar have tightened their relations. In May 2016, its rector, the Grand Imam Ahmad al-Taib, visited Pope Francis. This university is a reference point for the Muslim intellectual world. The trip would be another sign of progress in the relationship between Catholicism and Islam, and a step in the fight against fundamentalism. The Pope's visit to one of the Muslim world's key points of thought would reveal that part of Islam does not share the same view of terrorists. At the moment, the only confirmed trips for 2017 are to the sanctuary of Fatima in Portugal in May and Colombia in September.
And finally in the news, Archbishop Eamon Martin of Armagh, Northern Ireland, used his message for St. Patrick's Day to urge Irish people and those of Irish descent celebrating the feast to remember the plight of migrants. The Archbishop invited all to pray for refugees and for all displaced families, and he encouraged the hospitality and welcome for which the Irish are famous the world over. To mark the eve of St. Patrick's Day, Catholic and Protestant cathedrals in Armagh were illuminated in green. Tradition holds that St. Patrick founded the ancient see of Armagh. A vigil walk between the two cathedrals began at the Church of Ireland Anglican Cathedral and moved to St. Patrick's Catholic Cathedral. Well, that is all the information we have for you this time. I'm Kevin Nelson. Don't forget, you can keep up to date on Catholic news throughout the week with Catholic Newsbreak right here on the Catholic TV network.